Hello, everybody. Good morning. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope my audio quality isn't too bad for you guys. Today, we're going to be finishing up the fifth chapter titled "The Nephilim People of the Fiery Rockets" from Zecharia Sitchin's The 12th Planet. We left off halfway at page 161, starting with the commanding role of Utu or Shamash in matters of travel to the heavenly abode of the gods, and the functions performed by his subordinates in this connection are brought out in even greater detail in yet another Sumerian tale of a heavenward journey by a mortal. The Sumerian king lists inform us that the 13th ruler of Kish was Etana, the one who in heaven ascended. This brief statement needed no elaboration, for the tale of the mortal king who journeyed up to the highest heavens was well known throughout the ancient Near East and was the subject of numerous sealed depictions. Etana, we are told, was designated by the gods to bring mankind the security and prosperity that kingship in organized civilization was intended to provide. But Etana, it seems, could not father a son who would continue the dynasty. The only known remedy was a certain plant of birth that Etana could obtain only by fetching it down from the heavens. Like Gilgamesh at a later time, Etana turned to Shamash for permission and assistance. As the epic unfolds, it becomes clear that Etana was asking Shamash for a sham. O Lord, may it issue from thy mouth, grant thou me the plant of birth, show me the plant of birth, remove my handicap, produce for me a sham. Flattered by prayer and fattened by the sacrificial sheep, Shamash agreed to grant Etana's request to provide him with the sham. But instead of speaking of a sham, Shamash told Etana that an eagle would take him to the desired heavenly place. Directing Etana to the pit where the eagle has been placed, Shamash also informed the eagle ahead of time of the intended mission. Exchanging cryptic messages with Shamash, his lord, the eagle was told, "A man I will send to thee. He will take thy hand. Lead him hither. Do whatever he says. Do as I say." Arriving at the mountains indicated to him by Shamash, Etana saw the pit, and inside it, there the eagle was. At the command of valiant Shamash, the eagle entered into communication with Etana. Once more Etana explained his purpose and destination, whereupon the eagle began to instruct Etana on the procedure for raising the eagle from its pit. The first two attempts failed, but on the third one the eagle was properly raised. At daybreak the eagle announced to Etana, "My friend, up to the heaven of Anu I will bear thee." Instructing him how to hold on, the eagle took off, and they were aloft, rising fast. As though reported by a modern astronaut watching Earth recede as his rocket ship rises, the ancient storyteller describes how Earth appeared smaller and smaller to Etana. When he had borne him aloft one baru, the eagle says to him, to Etana, "See, my friend, how the land appears. Peer at the sea at the sides of the mountain house. The land has indeed become a mere hill. The wide sea is just like a tub." Higher and higher the eagle rose, smaller and smaller earth appeared. When he had borne him aloft a second baru, the eagle said, "My friend, cast a glance at how the land appears. The land was turned into a furrow. The wide sea is just like a bread basket." When he had borne him aloft a third baru, the eagle says to him, to Etana, See, my friend, how the land appears. The land has turned into a gardener's ditch. And then, as they continued to ascend, earth was suddenly out of sight. As I glanced around, the land had disappeared, and upon the wide sea mine eyes could not feast. According to one version of this tale, the eagle and Etana did reach the heaven of Anu. But another version states that Etana got cold feet when he could no longer see earth and ordered the eagle to reverse course and plunge down to earth. Once again, we find a biblical parallel to such an unusual report of seeing earth from a great distance above it. Exalting the Lord Yahweh, the prophet Isaiah said of him, "It is he who sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as insects." The tale of Etana informs us that, seeking a Shem, Etana had to communicate with an eagle inside a pit. A sealed depiction shows a winged tall structure, a launch tower, above which an eagle flies off in figure 78. What or who was the eagle who took Etana to the distant heavens? We cannot help associating the ancient text with the message beamed to Earth in July 1969 by Neil Armstrong, commander of the Apollo 11 spacecraft. Houston, transmission quality base here. The Eagle has landed. He was reporting the first landing by man on the moon. Tranquility Base was the site of the landing. Eagle was the name of the lunar module that separated from the spacecraft and took the two astronauts inside it to the moon, and then back to their mother craft. When the lunar module first separated to start its own flight in moon orbit, the astronauts told Mission Control in Houston the Eagle has wings. The eagle could also denote the astronauts who manned the spacecraft. On the Apollo 11 mission, Eagle was also the symbol of the astronauts themselves, worn as an emblem on their suits. Just as in the Etana tale, they too were eagles who could fly, speak, and communicate in Figure 79. How would an ancient artist have depicted the pilots of the skyships of the gods? Would he have depicted them by some chance as eagles? This is exactly what we have found. An Assyrian seal engraving from circa 1500 BC shows two eagle men saluting a Shem in figure 80. Numerous depictions of such eagles, the scholars call them birdmen, have been found. Most depictions show them flanking the tree of life as if to stress that they, in their Shems, provided the link with the heavenly abode where the bread of life and water of life were to be found. Indeed, the usual depiction of the eagle showed them holding in one hand the fruit of life and in the other the water of life, in full conformity with the tales of Adapa, Etana, and Gilgamesh in figure 81. How many depictions of the eagles clearly show that they were not monstrous birdmen, but anthropomorphic beings wearing costumes or uniforms that gave them the appearance of eagles. The Hittite tale concerning the god Te- Telepinu, who had vanished, reported that the great gods and the lesser gods began to search for Telepinu, and Shamash sent out a swift eagle to find him. In the book of Exodus, God is reported to have reminded the children of Israel, "I have carried you upon the wings of eagles, and have brought you unto me," confirming it seems that the way to reach the divine abode was upon the wings of eagles, just as the tale of Etana relates. Numerous biblical verses, as a matter of fact, describe the deity as a winged being. Boaz welcomed Ruth into the Judean community as coming under the wings of the God Yahweh. The psalmist sought security under the shadow of thy wings, and described the descent of the Lord from the heavens. He mounted a cherub and went flying. He soared, excuse me. He soared upon wind, uh, windy wings. Analyzing the similarities between the biblical El, employed as a title or genetic term for the deity, and the Canaanite El, S. Langdon, in Semitic mythology, showed that both were depicted in text and on coins as winged gods. Figure 78, Sitchin was referencing of an eagle um, launching off from what he refers to as the Shem, or the place where these ships took off. And figure 9 is the Apollo 11 emblem insignia. Figure 80 up on top, Sitchin was showing us the Assyrian seal of two eagle men saluting a Shem. Figure 81 shows the two eagles um, interacting with the tree of life, pretty much. 82 down at the bottom. Is that 82 down there? Yeah. It's just another depiction of humans themselves being depicted as these quote unquote eagles. The Mesopotamian texts invariably present Utu or Shamash as the god in charge of the landing place of the Shems and of the eagles, and like his subordinates, he was sometimes shown wearing the full regalia of an eagle's costume in figure 82. In such a capacity, he could grant to kings the privilege of flying on the wings of birds and of rising from the lower heavens to the lofty ones. And when he was launched aloft in a fiery rocket, it was he who stretched over unknown distances for countless hours. Appropriately, his net was the earth, his trap the distant skies. The Sumerian terminology for objects connected with celestial travel was not limited to the MEs that the gods put on, or the MUs that were their cone shaped chariots. Sumerian texts describing Sapar relate that it had a central part hidden and protected by mighty walls. Within those walls stood the temple of Utu, a house which is like a house of heavens. In an inner courtyard of the temple, also protected by high walls, stood erected upwards the mighty Apin, an object that plows through, according to the translators. A drawing found at the temple mound of Anu at Uruk depicts such an object. We would have been hard to put a few decades ago to guess what this object was, but it is a multi stage space rocket at the top of which rests a conical mu or command cabin in figure 83 just below us. And he's saying that there's different levels to these MUs, moves. The evidence that the gods of Sumer possess not just flying chambers for roaming Earth's skies, but space going multi stage rocket ships also emerges from the examination of texts describing the sacred objects at Utu's temple at Sapar. We are told that witnesses at Sumer's Supreme Court were required to take the oath in an inner courtyard, standing by a gateway through which they could see and face three divine objects. These were named the Golden Sphere, the Crew's Cabin, the Gur, and the Ala Marati, a term that literally meant advancer that makes vessel go, or what we would call a motor, an engine. What emerges here is a reference to a three-part rocket ship, with the cabin or command module at the top end, the engines at the bottom, and the Gur in the center. The later is a term that has been used extensively in connection with spaceflight. The guards Gilgamesh encountered at the entrance to the landing place of Shamash were called Gur Men. Excuse me. In the temple of Nanurta, the sacred or most guarded inner area was called the Gur Su, where the Gur is sprung up. Gur, it is generally acknowledged, was a term used to describe a sharp edged object. A close look at the pictorial sign for Gur provides a better understanding of the term's divine nature. For what we see is a long arrow shaped object divided into several parts or compartments. And that figure just here is Sitchin's depiction of these Gurs and these moves having different sections. That the Mu could hover in Earth's skies on its own, or fly over Earth's lands when attached to a Gur, or become the command module atop a multi-stage pin is testimony to the engineering ingenuity of the gods of Sumer, the gods of heaven and earth. A review of the Sumerian pictographs and ideograms leaves no doubt that whoever drew these signs was familiar with the shapes and purposes of rockets with tails, of billowing fire, missile-like vehicles, and celestial cabins. And I'll pause it there, guys, so you guys can take a good look. I'm gonna get something to drink. Finally, let us look at the pictographic sign for gods in Sumerian. The term was two-syllable word din gur. We have already seen that the symbol for gur was a two-stage rocket with fins. Din, the first syllable, meant righteous, pure, bright. Put together then, din gur, as gods or divine beings, conveyed the meaning, the righteous ones of the bright, pointed objects, or more explicitly, the pure ones of the blazing rockets. Below is a pictographic sign for din. I hope you guys can see everything clearly. Easily bringing to mind a powerful jet engine spewing flames from the end part and a front part that is puzzlingly open, but the puzzle turns to amazement if we spell Dinger by combining the two pictographs. The tail of the fin-like gur fits perfectly into the opening in the front of Din, figures 84 and 85. The astounding result is a picture of a rocket-propelled spaceship with a landing craft docked into it perfectly, just as the lunar module was docked with the Apollo 11 spaceship. It is indeed a three-stage vehicle with each part fitting nearly into each other, into the other, sorry. The thrust portion containing the engines, the midsection containing supplies and equipment, and the cylindrical sky chamber housing the people named Dinger, the gods of antiquity, the astronauts of millennia ago. Can there be any doubt that the ancient peoples, in calling their deities gods of heaven and earth, meant literally that they were people from elsewhere who had come to earth from the heavens? The evidence thus far submitted regarding the ancient gods and their vehicles should leave no further doubt that they were once indeed living beings of flesh and blood, people who literally came down to earth from the heavens. Even the ancient compilers of the Old Testament, who dedicated the Bible to a single God, found it necessary to acknowledge the presence upon earth in early times of such divine beings. The enigmatic section, a horror of translations and theologians alike, forms the beginning of chapter 6 of Genesis. It is interposed between the review of the spread of mankind through the generations following Adam and the story of the divine disenchantment with mankind that preceded the deluge. It states unequivocally that at all that time, the sons of the gods, let me jump over for you, that the sons of the gods saw the daughters of man, that they were good, and they took them for wives, of all which they chose. The implications of these verses and the parallels to the Sumerian tales of gods and their sons and grandsons and of Semite divine offspring resulting from cohabitation between gods and mortals mount further as we continue to read the biblical verses. The Nephilim were upon the earth in those days and thereafter too, when the sons of the gods cohabited with the daughters of the Adam, and they bore children unto them. They were the mighty ones of eternity, the people of the Shem. The above is not a traditional translation. For a long time, the expression the Nephilim were upon the earth has been translated as there were giants upon the earth. But recent translators, recognizing the error, have simply resorted to leaving the Hebrew term Nephilim intact in the translation. The verse, the people of the Shem, as one could expect, has been taken to mean the people who have a name and thus people of renown. But as we have already established, the term Shem must be taken in its original meaning, a rocket, a rocket ship. What then does the term Nephilim mean? Stemming from the Semitic root NFL, to, to be cast down. It means exactly what it says. It means those who were cast down upon earth. Contemporary theologians and biblical scholars have tended to avoid the troublesome verses either by explaining them away allegorically or simply by ignoring them altogether. But Jewish writings of the time of the Second Temple did not recognize in these verses the echoes of ancient traditions of fallen angels. Some of the early scholarly works even mention the names of these divine beings who fell from heaven and were on earth in those days: Shem Hazi, Shem's lookout; Uzzah, mighty one; and Uzi El, God's might. Malbim, a noted Jewish biblical commentator of the 19th century, recognized these ancient roots and explained that in ancient times the rulers of countries were the sons of the deities who arrived upon the earth from the heavens and ruled the earth and married wives from among the daughters of man, and their offspring included heroes and mighty ones, princes and sovereigns. These stories, Malbim said, were of the pagan gods, sons of the deities who in earliest times fell down from the heavens upon the earth. That is why they called themselves Nephilim, i.e., those who fell down. Irrespective of the theological implications, the literal and original meaning of the verses cannot be escaped. The sons of the gods who came to earth from the heavens, were the Nephilim, and the Nephilim were the people of the Shem, the people of the rocket ships. Henceforth, we shall call them by their biblical name. Well, that does chapter 5, everyone, and I hope that shed a lot of questions. I myself uh, kind of pondered at some of the things Sitchin was trying to convey, but that's for another video content that I want to do after we finish this book here. Tomorrow's update will be the beginning of the chapter 6, titled The 12th Planet, in Zecharia Sitchin's The 12th Planet. And thank you everyone for being here, participating, leaving the comments, liking, sharing, subscribing. I appreciate all, down to my heart. With that being said, I hope everyone stays safe and stays calm.